Now, you may want to ask, why do you have to do all this teaching and education of the people in the country you want to settle in? Why do you have to worry yourself about it? After all, you have your own challenges to deal with. Now, my answer will be, of course, you have a right to question the need for you to do that, to play that role. It's not fair to expect you to come and babysit people in their own country, who may even end up resenting you for trying to open their eyes to the truth. Some could even hate you. This happens. However, you need to look beyond that immediate inconvenience and realize that some societies and communities in which they live are where you aim to settle yourself and to build a new life. Therefore, if you fail to influence a change in the mindset of these people, to get them to shift from the colonized mindset to a decolonized one, most of what you're going to build for yourself in your new life there may not last, because these are going to be the people that will eventually attack whatever it is you're trying to build, because they will reject you and what you stand for, because they do not understand, they do not see why they need to be like you. So if you don't try to do this work of re-educating them, then it's going to hurt you in the long run. So you need to help to create an environment in which conscious Black Africans, whose knowledge of their ancestry drives them to unite in building a better world for themselves and to flourish. All right? Now, why I do not woke? It's a good question, and it has a very simple answer. You see, Black people in the diaspora have had an intense experience of raw racism that most Africans have never had before, do not have now, and may likely never have. That's the truth, with a few exceptions. So many of them have not experienced what you've experienced, maybe directly or indirectly, through contact with friends, family, relatives, and through knowledge of the history of your own ancestors. Many of them have not experienced racism in its most deadly forms. Okay? Most Africans have not experienced that. You have to understand. The enemy has come into the African continent in modern times, bearing gifts. The ancient Africans may have seen more of the brutality of the white supremacists. The modern Africans, most of the millennials, for instance, do not have a clue what that's about. So the modern day white people, the white supremacists, have not come with the same attitude they deal with you in Europe and America as people that are living there with your black skins. That's the big difference. You have to understand that. So they didn't come here and start doing things like box breaking, raping black men, lynching and hanging black people on trees. Instead, what they did was to engage our own people. I mean, the African leaders in Africa, using a lot of psychological manipulation and, of course, a lot of monetary incentives to get them to manipulate the people to do what they want. Of course, we know that, for instance, the South African apartheid era had countless instances when they oppressed blacks openly and killed them and abused them and did all kinds of terrible things to them. Then there was, of course, also the case of the King Leopold, the butcher of Belgium, who oversaw the literal slaughter of natives in the Congo. They were cutting off limbs, castrating men, raping the women. It's true, those things happened, but it happened decades ago, all right? And the people who are in Africa today, the Africans of today, many, one, have not been taught that history. They were never given such historical exposure to the history of what happened in the past. And many of them do not even know where to get it if they wanted to. And as a result, they have no clue that all of that happened and that it was done by the same white people that they see today, right? So they never grew up having any of such history narrated to them in school or by their parents, who in many cases often never got told themselves. My point is therefore that over the years, because the colonialists had to kind of relinquish power, or they gave independence to the African country they had colonized. They had to hand over their control of such countries. They were forced to therefore change their tactics. They could no longer be dictatorial. They could no longer be authoritarian. So they could no longer be overtly exploitative anymore. And so they had to look for new ways, okay, to still get access to the African countries and the resources they offered. So they switched their strategy around and adopted the use of diplomacy, quote unquote, combined with subtle and thinly veiled threats, sometimes even twisting, through self-righteous sanctions impositions to continue what they were doing in African countries. Okay? So many of today's Africans lack this knowledge of the true history of the white colonialists in Africa.
They realized that if we take away Africans from practice and move them to theory, we will be creating a labor force for ourselves. So they brought a school system which did not promote thinking but promoted remembering.
Say that again.
The video you're about to watch clearly identifies the root cause of the poverty afflicting Africa today, especially our habit of looking to other races for solutions. Example, loans, cures, vaccines, ideas, etc. Watch the video and you'll see what I mean. But let me just give you some background perspective against which to reflect on it. The ancient Africans, our ancestors, were thinkers and philosophers. The white people back then used to visit ancient Egypt, Kemet, to learn from our priests, who also doubled as scholars in the temples. It's a known fact that our ancestors designed the civilization the white people built on today. They learned from us astronomy, the arts, sciences, mathematics, medicine, philosophy, agriculture, writing, etc. Those were the results, however, of thousands of years of creative critical thinking and the study of nature to harness it for productive purposes by our ancestors, the ancient Africans. That was how they created the civilization the white people built on. Our ancestors were practical-minded thinkers and philosophers. The white guys came and learned everything from us, and then turned around to enslave us in a way that made us lose that important hands-on, practical-minded approach to living that had made our ancestors successful. To illustrate, the European museums till this day showcase amazing artifacts like the Benin bronzes, handmade by our ancestors, which the whites openly admit attest to craftsmanship superior to theirs at any point in time. If it was inferior, they would not be worth preserving in their museums. What you're going to hear in this video is a narration of the strategy used by the white people to make us lose that great ability. If we're to go back to being the kind of people we were when we first ruled on this planet, we have to return to our original practical thinking and doing ways and stop being mere refuse bins for the products of other people's thinking, which is what the speaker in this video is saying. Just listen to it. It's an excellent expose on why Africa is poor. You will hopefully now understand why I created this 6-part video series titled Repatriating to Africa, a 3-pronged strategy you can use to succeed. It calls attention to the need for Africans in Africa and those from diaspora to collaborate in order to reorientate and re-educate ourselves to become a more productive group of people.
They brought a school system which did not promote thinking, but promoted remembering for the sake of creating good employees who don't think but can remember. Okay?
Right.
So they brought a school system where you learnt useless things. Homo habilis. Who was Shaka's mother? What is the longest river in Africa? Tell me, what is the use of that rubbish? Okay? So you went into school and you were studying how many times Muslims pray per day.
Yeah.
You wake up at night to study how many times Muslims pray per day. So you memorize photosynthesis. You memorize how many teeth a dog has. You memorize everything. And at the end of the day, what did they produce? They produced someone who was a container of useless knowledge. A container of useless knowledge. That is why today we have doctors who have been independent for 55 years. Have you heard that there are vaccines being made by Zambian doctors? So you walk out of medical school as someone who knows when to give Panadol, how to take temperature. You are a doctor who is a Panadol distributor. And it's not your fault, the education system. Okay? You have professors in this country, in the School of Forestry at Copperbelt University. We have lived with Mukula tree since God created the world. All they know is how to label the parts of the tree. They don't know the value of the tree. Okay? So when this mission succeeded, then they came to set up industries. And when they set up industries, who was the laborer? The graduate from the School of Remembering. Someone who would remember how to dig, where to dig. Someone who would remember how to cut a tree and how many pieces. Someone who would remember. And they rewarded you with a bribe called a salary, and we became comfortable. So when they come into Africa, what are they coming to do? They are coming to reap your resources, and you are a means of production. So this is what made Africa poor.